The alarm screamed through the bridge of the Terran battleship Horizon. Captain Minho Park jumped from his chair and stared at the screen. Something big had just appeared at the edge of their sensor range. Something very big. "What am I looking at?" Minho asked his crew. "It's a structure, sir," said Lieutenant Seojun Han, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Ancient. Really ancient. It just drifted into our scanning zone." Minho stepped closer to the display. The object was massive. Bigger than any space station Earth had ever built. Its surface was covered in strange symbols and patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "Send a message to command," Minho ordered. "Tell them we found something they need to see." 3 days later, Commander Ji-won Lee arrived with her research team. She was Earth's best expert on alien civilizations. When she saw the structure, her eyes went wide. "This is incredible," she whispered. "Do you know what this is?" Minho shook his head. "A space station? It's a data archive," Ji-won said. "A library. And it's at least 50,000 years old." The team worked for weeks to access the archive's systems. When they finally broke through the encryption, what they found made everyone go silent. The archive contained thousands of messages. All of them said the same thing, in different alien languages. "We should have left Earth alone." Ji-won's hands trembled as she pulled up message after message. 23 different civilizations. All extinct now. All destroyed after they attacked humanity. "This can't be right," said Seojun. "Some of these messages are from 40,000 years ago. Humans were still living in caves back then. Yet somehow, we won," Ji-won said quietly. She opened one recording. A creature with 6 arms and crystal skin appeared on the screen. It spoke in a language long dead, but the computer translated its words. "Our empire ruled 1,000 worlds. We had weapons that could destroy stars. We thought the humans would be easy prey. We were wrong. They don't fight like other species. When we destroyed their colonies, they didn't surrender. They got angry. When we killed their warriors, more came. Always more. They followed us home. They hunted us across the galaxy. Now we are the last of our kind, hiding in the dark. If anyone finds this message, please understand. We should have left Earth alone." The message ended. Ji-won looked at Minho with fear in her eyes. "There are 22 more messages, just like that one," she said. "Different species, different time periods, same result. Every empire that attacked humanity was destroyed completely." Admiral Dong-yun Choi arrived from Earth the next day. He was an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes. He listened to Ji-won's report without speaking. "So we're the monsters," he finally said. "The galaxy's nightmare. We're survivors," Minho corrected. "There's a difference." Before they could discuss it further, alarms blared again. This time, it wasn't an ancient structure. It was a fleet. A massive fleet of alien warships had just appeared at the frontier. The communication came an hour later. The ships belonged to the Vorath hegemony, the largest empire in the known galaxy. Their message was simple and cold. "Humans. Your species has existed too long as a threat to galactic peace. You have 10 cycles to surrender your weapons and submit to our authority. If you refuse, we will destroy your homeworld and every colony you possess. This is not a negotiation." Admiral Dong-yun called an emergency meeting of Earth's War Council. Politicians argued for hours. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to show strength. But Minho knew what would happen. He had read the archives. "They won't listen," he told the council. The other empires didn't listen either. "They think we're weak because our technology is less advanced than theirs. They don't understand what makes us dangerous." "And what's that?" asked one politician. "We don't kit," Minho said simply. "Ever." Ambassador Heiji Nam was sent to the Vorath flagship to try diplomacy anyway. She was a brave woman who believed peace was always possible. Minho hoped she was right, but he didn't think so. Heiji stood before the Vorath commander in its massive throne room. The creature was 3 times her size, covered in crystalline armor that gleamed under harsh lights. "We don't want war," Heiji said. "Please, look at your own history. Look at what happened to every empire that attacked us." The Vorath commander made a sound like breaking glass. Its translator turned the sound into words. "We have studied your history. The empires you defeated were primitives, weak creatures with outdated technology. We are neither. Our fleet numbers in the millions. Each of our ships could destroy your entire navy alone. You will surrender, or you will die." "There's a pattern you're not seeing," Heiji insisted. "It's not about technology or numbers. It's about—" "Enough," the Vorath commander interrupted. "You have 3 days to evacuate Earth. After that, we begin orbital bombardment. Every city, every town, every human settlement will burn. Perhaps then you will understand that resistance is futile." Heiji returned to Earth with tears in her eyes. She delivered the Vorath's message to the War Council. The room fell silent. 3 days. Admiral Donghyun said quietly. "Not much time." "We can't win this fight," said a general. "Their fleet is too big." "We said that before," Minho replied. "Every time. And yet here we are." Jiwon was still studying the archive when she made another discovery. Hidden in the deepest layers of data was a file marked differently from the others. She opened it with shaking hands. It was a message from something that wasn't quite alive and wasn't quite machine. It called itself a Watcher. "We observed humanity for 10,000 years before you built cities," the message said. "We saw how you hunted animals larger and stronger than yourselves. We watched you survive ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have ended other species. We understood then what you really are. You are persistence made flesh. You are the species that doesn't know how to stop. We chose never to contact you because we knew the truth. If we attacked you, we would lose. If we helped you, you would eventually surpass us. So we watched from far away and hoped you would never look to the stars. Now, you have. We are sorry for whoever meets you first." Jiwon showed the message to Minho and Admiral Donghyun. "So, even the peaceful ones were afraid of us," Donghyun said. "Can you blame them?" Jiwon asked. "After reading all these warnings?" Minho looked out the window at Earth, spinning peacefully in the dark. 3 days until the Vorath came. 3 days to prepare for a war they couldn't win with conventional tactics. "Send a message to all fleet captains," he ordered. "Tell them to prepare for Operation Samson. If the Vorath want a fight, we'll give them one. They'll never forget. That operation requires sacrificing Luna Base," Sojun said quietly. "Everyone there will die." "I know," Minho said. "But if we don't stop them at Luna, Earth dies anyway. Sometimes survival requires terrible choices." Admiral Donghyun put his hand on Minho's shoulder. "The pattern repeats itself again. They attack us. We do whatever it takes to survive. They realize, too late, what they've unleashed." Far away, the Vorath fleet began its journey toward Earth. The commanders were confident. Their ships were invincible. Their weapons were unmatched. They had conquered 100 species before. One more would be easy. They had no idea they were about to become the 24th message in an ancient archive, another voice warning the galaxy to leave Earth alone. The Vorath fleet arrived in the Sol system like a storm of metal and fire. Millions of ships, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, blocking out the stars. On Mars, alarms screamed as the first wave attacked. The terraforming stations had been humanity's pride, turning the red planet green after decades of work. Engineers and scientists ran for the evacuation ships, but most didn't make it. The Vorath bombardment turned the stations into radioactive craters in minutes. 50,000 people died before they could even understand what was happening. The red planet turned black with smoke and ash. Captain Minho watched the destruction from his ship near Luna. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair so hard they hurt. "They're not even trying to capture anything," Lieutenant Seojun said, his voice shaking. "They're just destroying everything. They're just destroying. They're just destroying. They're just destroying everything. They want to break our spirit," Minho replied. "Show us that resistance is hopeless." "Is it working?" Minho looked at his crew. Every face showed the same expression. Not fear. Anger. "What do you think?" he asked. The Vorath fleet split into 3 groups. One headed for Mars, one toward Earth, and one toward Luna, where Minho's carrier group waited. "All ships," Minho broadcast to his fleet. "Remember your training. We're faster than they are. Use it. Don't try to match their firepower. Hit them and run. Make them chase you. Sojun, activate the drones." Hundreds of small drone ships launched from the carriers. They weren't very smart, but they looked like real warships on sensors. The Vorath took the bait and wasted ammunition shooting at empty shells. While the enemy was distracted, Minho's real ships swept in from behind. They targeted the Vorath engines and weapon systems, trying to disable rather than destroy. It was like mosquitoes attacking elephants, but mosquitoes could kill if there were enough of them. For 6 hours, the battle raged around Luna. Human ships darted between the moon's craters, using the terrain as cover. Every time the Vorath tried to pursue, mines and traps destroyed their forward ships. But it wasn't enough. The Vorath had too many ships. For every enemy vessel the humans destroyed, 10 more took its place. "Sir, we've lost the Defender and the Soul," Seojun reported. "The Moscow is badly damaged. We can't hold them much longer." Minho had known this moment would come. They all had. Operation Samson had always been the plan, but knowing what had to happen and actually doing it were different things. "Send the evacuation order," Minho said quietly. "Everyone on Luna has 30 minutes to reach the transport ships." On Luna's surface, Commander Somin Kwan received the order. She was in charge of the moon's defenses, but she knew what the evacuation meant. Operation Samson wasn't about saving Luna, it was about destroying it. "All personnel, this is Commander Kwan," she broadcast. "Get to the transports now. This is not a drill. You have 30 minutes. 10,000 people lived and worked on Luna. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, families. They ran for the landing pads, carrying whatever they could. Some didn't ask questions. Others understood immediately, and their faces went pale. Somin watched them go, then walked to the central reactor complex. 2 other officers were already there. They didn't speak. They just started entering the codes that would override every safety system on the moon. Luna wasn't just a base. It was a weapons factory, a mining operation, and a massive nuclear reactor complex. And in 30 minutes, it was all going to explode. The transports launched with seconds to spare. They accelerated away from the moon as fast as their engines could push them. Behind them, the Vorath fleet moved into position to capture Luna's facilities. In space, Minho counted down the final seconds. His tactical display showed Vorath ships surrounding the moon like scavengers around a corpse. 3, 2, 1. Every nuclear reactor on Luna went critical at the same moment. Every weapons stockpile detonated. Every fuel depot ignited. The explosion was so bright, it looked like a second sun had been born. The blast wave caught the Vorath fleet completely by surprise. Ships that had survived the battle were torn apart like paper. The ones that didn't explode immediately were thrown into each other or out into space, dead and drifting. When the light faded, Luna was gone. Just an expanding cloud of radioactive debris that would be impossible to pass through for years. 30% of the Vorath fleet had been destroyed in an instant. The survivors pulled back, regrouping beyond the debris field. On the Vorath command ship, the admiral looked at the destruction with something humans might have called shock. In 10,000 years of conquest, it had never seen anything like this. They destroyed their own moon, it said to its officers. Their own base. Just to kill us. The humans are insane, another Vorath replied. What species sacrifices its own territory? One that values victory more than preservation, the admiral said slowly. Send a message to the hegemony. Tell them the humans are more dangerous than we thought, but also tell them we will not retreat. Commit the full armada. Earth must burn. Back on Earth, Admiral Donghyun received the reports. Luna was gone. 3,000 people had died in the explosion. The ones who couldn't evacuate in time. Another 5,000 ships and soldiers were lost in the battle. But the Vorath had lost hundreds of thousands. It's not enough, said a general. They still have millions of ships. They'll just send more. Then we keep fighting, Donghyun replied. Minho bought us time. Now we use it. Ji-won was in her lab, still studying the ancient archives, when she found something important. She ran to the War Council, without even stopping to sleep. I know why we always win, she said, spreading data across the display. I finally understand the pattern. Tell us, Donghyun ordered. Every empire that attacked us made the same mistake, Ji-won explained. They measured strength in ships and weapons and technology. But that's not what makes a species dangerous. What makes us dangerous is psychology. I don't understand, said a politician. Humans don't fight to win, Ji-won said. We fight because we can't imagine surrendering. When you destroy our bases, we don't see defeat. We see a reason to fight harder. When you kill our people, we don't break. We get angry. Other species have a calculation in their minds. They ask, can we win? And if the answer is no, they surrender. Humans never ask that question. We just ask, how do we hurt them back? The room was quiet as everyone absorbed this. So we're not stronger, Minho said. We're crazier. Crazy is just another word for unpredictable, Ji-won replied. The Vorath are analyzing our military strength and assuming we'll surrender when the math says we can't win. But we won't. We'll do things they can't predict. Like destroying our own moon. Just to kill more of them. They think war is about logic, Donghyun said slowly. But for us, it's about survival. And humans will do anything to survive. Exactly, Ji-won said. That's why every empire falls into the same trap. They think if they just hit us hard enough, we'll quit. But hitting us hard just makes us desperate. And desperate humans are the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Minho stood up. Then let's show them how desperate we can be. Admiral, I request permission to take a strike team deep into Vorath space. While they're attacking Earth, we attack their homeworld. The politicians gasped. That's suicide, one said. Maybe, Minho replied. But it's also something they won't expect. They think we'll defend Earth with everything we have. They're not prepared for us to go on the offensive. It's insane, another politician argued. Yes, Donghyun said with a grim smile. That's exactly why it might work. Permission granted, Captain. Take your best ships and your best people. Hit them where they think they're safe. With Yuge, Captain said Adventure. With Yuge 1, Minho saluted and left to prepare. Sojun followed him, along with pilot Yuna Shin and a dozen other volunteers. Ji-won caught up with them at the hangar. I'm coming with you, she said. It's too dangerous, Minho protested. You need me. Ji-won insisted. I know more about the Vorath than anyone. I've been studying them through the archives. You need that knowledge if you want this mission to succeed. Minho wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Fine. But you follow my orders out there. As they prepared to leave, the Vorath fleet regrouped and began its final approach to Earth. This time, they weren't taking chances. This time, they were bringing everything. The siege of Earth was about to begin. And somewhere in the dark between the stars, a small human strike team was racing toward the heart of the enemy empire, hoping to do the impossible one more time. The journey to Vorath space took 3 months. Captain Minho's strike team traveled in silence through the dark, using stealth systems to avoid detection. 12 ships carrying 2,000 of Earth's best soldiers, all racing toward an enemy homeworld they had never seen. Lieutenant Seojun checked their supplies every day. Food was running low. Ammunition was carefully rationed. If the mission failed, they didn't have enough fuel to get home. Everyone knew this was a one-way trip unless they succeeded. "How are the crew?" Minho asked Sojun one evening. "Scared, but determined," Sojun replied. "They know what's at stake. They know Earth is under siege, while we're out here." "Any word from home?" Seojun shook his head. "Communications are too risky. If we send a message, the Vorath might detect us. We're running dark." In the research section, Jiwon studied everything she could find about the Vorath. Their culture, their history, their weaknesses. The archives had limited information, but it was enough. "They've never been invaded," she told Minho one day. "In 10,000 years of expansion, no enemy has ever reached their core worlds. They don't even have defenses around their homeworld, because they never needed them." "Arrogance," Minho said. "Or just logic," Jiwon replied. "Why waste resources defending something no one can reach?" But they didn't account for humans being crazy enough to try. On the 40th day of the journey, they discovered a stowaway. A young man named Tae-young Kim had hidden himself in one of the cargo holds. He was thin and weak from lack of food, but his eyes burned with anger. "What are you doing on my ship?" "I'm going to kill them," Tae-young said simply. "The Vorath killed my family on Mars. My wife, my daughter. They were in the terraforming station when the bombardment started. I'm going to make the Vorath pay." "You could have died hiding in that cargo hold," Sojun said. "I don't care about dying," Taeyong replied. "I care about revenge." Minho understood that feeling. He had seen the destruction of Mars too. But revenge without discipline was just suicide. "You'll follow my orders," Minho told him. "You want to hurt the Vorath? Fine. But you do it my way, when I say so. Otherwise, I'll lock you in the brig for the rest of the mission." "Understood?" Taeyong hesitated, then nodded. They put him to work in engineering. He turned out to be a skilled mechanic, and the ships needed constant repairs after months of hard travel. But everyone could see the rage burning inside him, barely controlled. On the 65th day, they passed through the ruins of an ancient civilization, dead planets orbiting a dying star. Jiwon insisted on stopping to investigate. "We don't have time," Minho argued. "We need to understand what we're up against," Jiwon countered. "These ruins might tell us something important." They sent a shuttle to the largest dead city. What they found there made everyone sick. The civilization was called the Talvek. According to the records Jiwon found, they had attacked Earth 8,000 years ago. Their invasion had failed, and they retreated to their home systems, thinking they were safe. They were wrong. Humans followed them. Not armies, but small groups of hunters who spent generations tracking down every Talvek colony, every hidden settlement, every refugee ship. The Talvek weren't just defeated. They were erased. "This is what we do," Jiwon said quietly, standing in a ruined building. "This is what humanity becomes when someone threatens us. We don't just win. We make sure the enemy can never threaten us again." "You sound like you disapprove," Sojun said. "I don't know what I feel," Jiwon admitted. "I understand why it happened. The Talvek killed billions of humans. But, looking at these dead cities, seeing what we did, it scares me. What if we're the monsters the galaxy thinks we are?" "We're survivors," Minho said. "Sometimes survival requires terrible things." Taeyong had a different reaction. "Good," he said, looking at the ruins. "This is what the Vorath deserve. Complete destruction. Not just their military, but everything. Every city. Every colony. Every last one of them. That's genocide," Jiwon said. "That's justice," Taeyong replied. They left the dead world behind. But its ghost followed them. Everyone on the mission now understood what failure meant. If they lost, the Vorath would do to Earth what humanity did to the Talvek. But if they won, would they become the same kind of monsters? On the 91st day, they reached Vorath space. Their sensors showed a massive system, with 3 inhabited planets and dozens of orbital stations. The Vorath homeworld was the second planet, covered in glittering cities. There are billions of them down there, Jiwan said, studying the scans. Not just soldiers, civilians, families. Good, said Taeyong. Let them burn. We're not here to commit genocide, Minho said firmly. We're here to cripple their military and industrial capacity. Force them to recall their fleet from Earth. That won't be enough, Taeyong argued. If we leave them alive, they'll rebuild. They'll come back. We have to finish this. I give the orders here, Minho said coldly. Not you. The strike team spent 2 days planning their approach. The Vorath defenses were formidable, but they were designed to stop large fleets. Not a small team with stealth technology. Pilot Yuna Shin would lead the fighters through the orbital defense grid. It was the most dangerous job. Flying through weapons, fire in ships designed for stealth, not combat. She accepted the mission without hesitation. Just get me close enough, she told Minho. I'll do the rest. The attack began at dawn on the Vorath homeworld. Yuna's squadron swept through the orbital stations, destroying power generators and communication arrays. The Vorath had never been attacked at home before. They didn't know how to respond. Minho's main force followed behind, targeting military shipyards and weapons factories. Explosions lit up the night sky on the Vorath homeworld. For the first time in their history, the Vorath people felt what it was like to be under attack. Half of Yuna's squadron died in the first hour. The Vorath defenders finally organized and began fighting back. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done. In the command center of the main strike ship, Minho watched the destruction through their sensors. They had succeeded beyond their hopes. The Vorath military infrastructure was crippled. Their government centers were in ruins. But Taeyong wanted more. He accessed the weapons console and tried to target the civilian cities. What are you doing? Seojun shouted, pulling him away. Finishing the job, Taeyong snarled. They killed my family. Now I kill theirs. Stand down, Minho ordered. No, Taeyong said, drawing a weapon. For a long moment, the bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the young man driven mad by grief and rage. Minho understood his pain. But understanding didn't mean agreement. Put the weapon down, Minho said quietly. That's an order. You're making a mistake, Taeyong said. But he lowered the gun. Jiwan had been quiet during the whole exchange, but now she spoke. He's right about one thing. If we leave the Vorath intact, they might recover and attack again. But he's also wrong. If we commit genocide, we become exactly what the galaxy thinks we are. So what do we do? Sojun asked. We show them restraint. Minho decided. We've destroyed their military. Now we send them a message. Tell them, this is what mercy looks like. If they continue attacking Earth, we'll return without mercy next time. They broadcast the message across every Vorath communication channel. The enemy would understand the threat. Humanity had reached their homeworld. They could have destroyed everything. But they chose not to. That choice itself was a weapon more powerful than any bomb. But Minho also knew Jiwan was right. Restraint today might mean vulnerability tomorrow. The Vorath might rebuild. They might seek revenge. Showing mercy was a gamble. As they prepared to return to Earth, Yuna reported something strange. Sir, I'm detecting a massive energy surge from the Vorath homeworld. Multiple launch signatures. They're coming after us, Sojun said. No, Jiwan said, studying the readings. Those aren't weapons. They're fleet recall beacons. They're calling their ships home. On Earth, Admiral Donghyun received a message from the Vorath fleet. It was simple and cold. We are withdrawing. The war is over. The siege of Earth had lasted 2 months. 3 cities were destroyed. 50 million people were dead. But humanity had survived again. In deep space, Minho's strike team began their long journey home. They had done the impossible. They had struck at the heart of the largest empire in the galaxy, and lived to tell about it. But Taeyong sat alone in his quarters, staring at nothing. He had wanted revenge, but Minho had denied him. The rage inside him hadn't died. It was just waiting. While Captain Minho's strike team was deep in Vorath space, Earth faced its darkest days. The siege had begun with orbital bombardment. The first city to fall was Mumbai, then Jakarta, then Lagos. Each one turned to ash in minutes. Admiral Dong-yun coordinated the defense from a bunker beneath Seoul. The command center's walls showed live feeds from around the world. Every screen displayed fire and destruction. The casualty counter climbed past 10 million on the first day. "We can't stop them," said a general, his voice hollow. "They're just burning everything from orbit. Our defenses can't reach that high. Then we bring them down to us," Dong-hyun replied. "Send every available ship to harass their fleet. Make them angry. Make them commit ground forces." It was a desperate strategy. The Vorath had the advantage in space. But on the ground, fighting in cities and tunnels, humans might have a chance. The Vorath took the bait. After a week of bombardment, they deployed landing forces to secure major cities. Millions of their soldiers descended in dropships, ready to accept Earth's surrender. They found no one willing to surrender. In Seoul, Sergeant Bora Kang led a group of civilian volunteers. Most had never held a weapon before the war started. Now they fought like demons, turning every building into a fortress, every street into a killing field. The Vorath were bigger and stronger than humans. Their armor was nearly impenetrable. But they had never fought an enemy like this before. The humans didn't form defensive lines. They attacked from sewers, from buildings, from underground tunnels. They used weapons the Vorath had never seen, jury-rigged explosives and chemical attacks that bypassed armor. Bora's group held a single city block for 3 days. The Vorath sent 300 soldiers to clear them out. Only 50, Vorath, survived. None of Bora's volunteers did, but they made the enemy pay for every meter. Stories like this repeated across Earth. In New York, civilians collapsed buildings on top of Vorath formations. In London, defenders lured the enemy into the underground and detonated gas lines. In Tokyo, children too young to fight served as spotters, guiding artillery strikes from hidden positions. The Vorath couldn't understand it. Where were the surrender negotiations? Where were the leaders begging for mercy? Instead, they found a planet that refused to die. "They're animals," a Vorath field commander reported. "They hide like cowards and strike from shadows. They use their own civilians as weapons. They booby-trap their own buildings with their own people still inside." The Vorath High Command had expected Earth to fall in weeks. Instead, the ground war stretched into months, and they were losing soldiers faster than they could deploy them. In the Seoul bunker, Admiral Dong-hyun received daily reports of the carnage. Military casualties were enormous, but civilian losses were worse. Every day, another city was destroyed. Every day, the counter climbed higher. 20 million dead, 30 million, 40 million. "How much longer can we hold?" asked a politician who had evacuated to the bunker. "As long as we have to," Dong-hyun replied. But privately, he wondered the same thing. Earth was dying. Even if they won, what would be left? Then Ji-won's research finally bore fruit. She had been working around the clock in her laboratory, studying the archives even as bombs fell outside. She burst into the command center with her findings. "I know why we always win," she said, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "I know what we are. Tell us," Dong-hyun ordered. "The messages in the archive aren't just warnings," Ji-won explained. "They're quarantine beacons. Every civilization that attacked us tried to warn others to stay away from Earth. But there's a deeper pattern. The civilizations didn't just lose. They were hunted to extinction. She pulled up historical data showing humanity's response to every invasion. The pattern was consistent and terrifying. When attacked, humans didn't just defend. They went on the offensive. They pursued their enemies across the galaxy. They hunted them down systematically, destroying not just military targets but every colony, every settlement, every last member of the species that threatened them. "We're not defenders," Jiwan said. "We're persistence predators on a galactic scale. We track, we hunt, we never give up. Other species fight until the cost is too high. Then they retreat. Humans fight until the enemy is eliminated. That's what makes us different. That's what makes us terrifying." The command center was quiet as everyone absorbed this. "So we're not the good guys," said a general. "There are no good guys in survival," Donghyun replied. "There are only those who live and those who die." On the surface, the battle for Seoul intensified. The Vorath had committed a massive force to capture Earth's command bunker. They knew if they could kill Admiral Donghyun, human resistance might collapse. They were wrong, but they didn't know that yet. Commander Salman Kwan commanded Earth's remaining orbital defense fleet. She had 9 ships left from the original 100. 9 ships against the Vorath armada that darkened the sky. "Ma'am, we can't hold them," her tactical officer said. "They're bringing up their planet-killer weapons. If those fire, Earth is finished." Salman looked at her crew, young faces that had aged decades in weeks of constant fighting. They were exhausted, wounded, and terrified. But they hadn't quit. They never would. "I need volunteers," she said. "For a ramming attack." Everyone raised their hand. Salman chose the 3 ships in the best condition, including her own flagship. They would accelerate to maximum speed and crash into the Vorath command ship. At relativistic velocity, even a small ship becomes a weapon that can destroy anything. "Tell my family I love them," Salman said to the crew members who would stay behind. Then, she gave the order. The 3 ships burned their engines at maximum, accelerating toward the Vorath flagship. Enemy fire tore into them, but they kept coming. One ship exploded before reaching its target. Another broke apart from the stress, but its wreckage continued forward. Salman's ship made it all the way. She aimed for the Vorath command ship, the largest vessel in their fleet, and struck it dead center at 90% the speed of light. The explosion lit up the entire planet. The Vorath flagship simply ceased to exist, along with 50 other ships caught in the blast. The shockwave disabled hundreds more. On the surface, humans and Vorath alike stopped fighting to stare at the light show in the sky. For a moment, the war paused as everyone processed what had just happened. The Vorath fleet fell into chaos without their command structure. Ships began retreating without orders. The invasion force on Earth's surface lost coordination. In the bunker, Donghyun received a transmission from the Vorath home fleet. News of Minho's strike had reached them. Their homeworld was crippled. Their invasion fleet was broken. Their commanders were dead. "We are withdrawing," the Vorath message said. "The war is over. We sue for peace." The command center erupted in cheers. But Donghyun felt no joy. He looked at the casualty counter. 50 million humans dead. 3 cities completely destroyed. Dozens more heavily damaged. Commander Salman and her crew gone. The price of victory was written in blood. "Send a response," he ordered. "We accept their withdrawal. But if they ever return, we will show no mercy." Bora emerged from the ruins of Seoul 3 days later. She was one of only 50 survivors from her volunteer unit. The city was in ruins. Bodies lay everywhere, human and Vorath alike. "Did we win?" she asked a soldier. "Yes," he replied. "The Vorath are retreating. It doesn't feel like winning," Bora said, looking at the devastation. The soldier had no answer for that. As news of the Vorath withdrawal spread, Earth began counting its losses. 50 million dead. 3 major cities destroyed. Lunar base gone. Mars colonies abandoned. The cost had been enormous, but humanity had survived. Again, Jiwon compiled the final data for the archives. She added Earth's entry to the list of civilizations that had faced humanity. But unlike the others, she added something new. A note about restraint. About the choice Minho made to spare the Vorath civilians. Maybe we're evolving, she wrote. Maybe we're learning that survival doesn't require genocide. Or maybe we're just tired of war. Time will tell if mercy was wisdom or weakness. Far away in deep space, Minho's strike team was heading home. They didn't know yet about the siege. They didn't know about the millions dead. They didn't know about Saman's sacrifice. All they knew was they had struck the Vorath heart, and the Empire had blinked first. In the archives of human history, they would be remembered as heroes who saved Earth. But Taeyong sat in his quarters, still angry. The war was over, but his rage remained. He had wanted total destruction. Minho had denied him that. Some fires, once lit, are impossible to extinguish. Captain Minho's strike team arrived home to a hero's welcome. But the celebrations felt hollow. Earth was scarred. Cities lay in ruins. 50 million graves waited to be filled. Minho walked through the remains of Seoul and barely recognized it. Buildings he remembered were gone. Streets he had walked were craters. The city he loved was a ghost of itself. We saved Earth, Lieutenant Seojun said quietly. Why doesn't it feel like victory? Because we're looking at what victory costs, Minho replied. The reunion with Admiral Dong-hyun was bittersweet. The two men embraced, but both had aged years in the months apart. War had taken its toll on them. The Vorath are withdrawing, Dong-hyun reported. Their fleet is returning to their space. But we have a decision to make. Do we let them go? Or do we finish what they started? What do you mean? Minho asked. Dong-hyun showed him intelligence reports. The Vorath were in chaos. Their military was broken. Their homeworld was crippled. If humanity struck now with full force, they could destroy the Vorath completely, eliminate the threat forever. Some in the government want to pursue them, Dong-hyun said. They argue that if we let the Vorath survive, they'll rebuild and attack again in 100 years. Better to end it now. That's genocide, Minho said. That's survival, Dong-hyun replied. It's what we did to the Talvek. It's what we did to every empire that threatened us. We don't just defeat our enemies. We erase them. Before Minho could respond, Ambassador Heiji burst into the room. Behind her were dozens of politicians and military leaders, all arguing loudly. You can't order a pursuit without government approval, Heiji insisted. The military has authority during wartime, a general countered. The war is over, Heiji shot back. The Vorath are retreating. Any pursuit now is an act of aggression, not defense. The argument raged for hours. Some wanted to let the Vorath go, others wanted complete destruction. Earth was divided between those who valued mercy and those who valued security. Taeyong listened to the debate with growing anger. He had lost his family. 50 million others had died. And now these politicians wanted to let the enemy escape? He found sympathizers among the military. Officers who had lost friends. Soldiers who had watched cities burn. People who wanted revenge more than peace. We should hunt them down, Taeyong argued to anyone who would listen. Make them extinct. That's the only way to be safe. But Jiwon stood against him. She had spent months studying the archives, understanding the pattern of humanity's wars. She knew what happened when humans chose genocide over restraint. If we exterminate the Vorath, we become the monsters, she said in a public broadcast. We prove that the galaxy is right to fear us. Every species that looks at humans will see not survivors, but destroyers. Is that the legacy we want? Better to be feared than dead, Taeyong replied in his own broadcast. The Vorath chose to attack us. They chose genocide first. We're just finishing what they started. The debate tore Earth apart. Protests erupted in the surviving cities. Some demanded justice. Others demanded mercy. The planet that had stood united against invasion now fractured over what to do with victory. Admiral Donghyun made a decision. He authorized a pursuit fleet, not to destroy the Vorath, but to ensure they kept retreating. A show of force to prevent any thoughts of regrouping. Captain Minho was given command. Despite his doubts, despite his exhaustion, he accepted. Someone had to ensure the mission didn't turn into a massacre. The pursuit fleet departed a month after the siege ended. 50 ships, including the best that remained in Earth's navy. Their orders were clear. Follow the Vorath. Ensure they return to their territory. Use force only if attacked. But Taeyong was aboard one of those ships. He had volunteered for the mission, and no one had thought to refuse him. After all, he was a hero of the Deep Strike, a man who had risked everything to attack the Vorath homeworld. No one realized he had his own plans. The pursuit lasted 3 months. The Vorath fleet ran, scattered, and broken. Human ships shadowed them through deep space, making sure they kept moving. Finally, they reached the edge of Vorath territory. The enemy fleet began to consolidate, preparing to cross into their own space. This was the moment of decision. We should hit them now, Taeyong urged in a planning session. They're vulnerable. One strike could destroy their entire remaining fleet. That's not our mission, Minho replied. We're here to escort them out, not destroy them. You're making a mistake, Taeyong insisted. In 100 years, they'll rebuild. They'll come back. And more humans will die, because you were too weak to finish this. Or maybe they'll remember that we showed mercy, Jiwon said. She had insisted on coming along. Still studying. Still trying to understand. Maybe they'll tell their children about the humans who could have destroyed them, but didn't. Maybe that's how we break the cycle. There is no cycle, Taeyong said. There's only survival. And you're choosing their survival over ours. That night, Taeyong tried to take control of the weapon systems. He planned to fire on the Vorath fleet without authorization, force the humans into a final battle. Seo Jun caught him in the act. The two men fought, and Taeyong was subdued. But the incident made everyone realize how close they had come to disaster. Minho visited Taeyong in the brig. The young man sat with his head in his hands, crying. They killed my family, Taeyong said. My wife. My daughter. They were everything to me. And you want me to just let the Vorath go? To forgive them? I'm not asking you to forgive, Minho said quietly. I'm asking you to stop. Revenge won't bring your family back. It will just create more families like yours on the other side. I don't care about their families, Taeyong said bitterly. I know, Minho replied. That's why you can't be part of this decision. The next day, Minho sent a message to the Vorath fleet. It was broadcast openly, so everyone could hear, human and alien alike. This is Captain Minho Park of the Terran Defense Fleet. You attacked our homeworld. You killed 50 million of our people. By all rights, we should hunt you to extinction. But we're choosing something different. We're choosing to let you go. Not because we're weak. Not because we forgive you. But because we want the killing to stop. He paused, then continued. But understand this. If you ever attack humanity again, there will be no mercy. No restraint. No second chances. We will do what we did to the Talvek. We will erase you completely. Go home. Remember this day. Remember that humans offered peace when we could have offered annihilation. The Vorath fleet crossed into their own territory without responding. The pursuit fleet turned back toward Earth. On the journey home, Jiwon updated the ancient archive one final time. She added humanity's message, but with a note. We chose restraint. Time will tell if it was wisdom or weakness. But for the first time in our history, We let an enemy survive after they attacked us. Maybe we're evolving. Maybe we're learning. Or maybe we're just tired of war. The galaxy will judge us by what happens next. 6 months later, a message arrived from Vorith Space. It was an official communication from their new government. The old military leadership had been overthrown by civilians who wanted no more war. "We accept your terms," the message said. "The Vorath hegemony will dismantle its military to defensive forces only. We will submit to human oversight of our weapons programs, and we will broadcast our defeat across the galaxy, so others may learn from our mistake. We should have left Earth alone." The message became the 24th entry in the ancient archive. Another empire warning the galaxy about humanity. But this time, there was something new. A note about mercy. About restraint. About humans who chose not to become monsters. Minho retired from military service. He had fought enough wars for one lifetime. He settled in the rebuilding soul, helping to reconstruct what had been destroyed. Ji-won continued her research, but now she focused on understanding human psychology. Why did humans fight so hard? Why did they refuse to surrender? What made them different from every other species in the galaxy? Heiji became Earth's ambassador to the Vorath. It was difficult work, building trust between species that had tried to kill each other. But slowly, carefully, she made progress. Taeyong was released from prison after 2 years. He never forgave the Vorath, but he stopped trying to destroy them. His rage had burned itself out, leaving only sadness and loss. He spent his remaining years working in an orphanage for children who lost parents in the war, trying to prevent them from becoming what he had been. Admiral Donghyun lived long enough to see Earth rebuilt. On his deathbed, Minho visited him. "Did we make the right choice?" Donghyun asked. "I don't know," Minho admitted. "But I know this. If we had exterminated them, we would have proved the galaxy right to fear us. At least this way, we showed that humans can be something other than destroyers." "I hope you're right," Donghyun said. "I hope mercy was wisdom and not weakness." He died that night, peacefully, knowing that Earth had survived one more time. In the ruins of the Talvek homeworld, Ji-won made one final discovery. Hidden in the deepest archives was a message from the ancient Watchers, the beings who had observed humanity 50,000 years ago. "We have watched your species for 100 generations," the message said. "We watched you nearly destroy yourselves 1,000 times. Yet you always survived. We watched you develop weapons that could crack planets, yet you chose not to use them. We watched you face extinction repeatedly, yet you refused to die. You are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, but also the most unpredictable. You can be monsters or heroes, destroyers or builders. You contain multitudes. That is what makes you terrifying and beautiful at once. We chose not to contact you because we did not know which version of humanity we would meet. Now, you have reached the stars. The galaxy will never be the same. We can only hope you choose to be builders more often than destroyers." Ji-won read the message and smiled sadly. The Watchers understood humanity better than humans understood themselves. Capable of terrible violence, but also capable of restraint. Able to hunt enemies to extinction, but also able to show mercy. The galaxy now knew what humans were. The question was, what they would choose to be. Earth rebuilt slowly. Memorials were erected for the 50 million dead. The ruins of Luna became a reminder of the cost of survival. Mars was re-terraformed. Life continued. And in the ancient archive, the message remained for any species that might find it. 24 civilizations, warning the galaxy about Earth. 24 voices, saying the same thing. We should have left Earth alone. But now, for the first time, one of those messages ended differently. They could have destroyed us. They chose not to. Perhaps there is hope after all.